Oh, there Bart is. Okay, I think that is everyone from our side. I don't know if we just want to go through introductions first.
Sure, that'd
and
be great, Andrew.
And I can just start since I did contact you. So my name is Andrew Clement. I'm one of the deputy directors here over admin and financial services, as well as Medicaid recovery. And I've been with the state of Utah for about 12 years. And so we just want to go to Carrie.
Sure. My name is Carrie Smith, and I'm a deputy director for ORS as well. I'm also the 40 director over our child support services. And I've been here for 28 years. Long time.
Okay, and then we'll just go in the order that I see. Yeah, Marty was the next one on mine too.
Okay, well, I'm Marty Robbins. I work for Carrie as a regional director in the northern region of Utah, and been here about the same amount of time as Carrie before we knew what QR codes were.
See Kim.
My name is Kim Ho-Smith, and I am the Southern Region Director for Child Support Services, and I've been here 9 years, almost 10.
See, and Teresa.
Hi, my name is Teresa Trujillo. I'm the Regional Director for the Central Region, and I've also been here a long time.
Okay, Stephanie.
Stephanie Kenny, Associate Regional Director for Agency and Financial Services. And Carrie and I started it like a week or two apart, like a pay period apart. So 28 years as well. So.
Okay, and Bart.
I am Bart Mason. I'm with the Electronic Technologies Group, the supervisor over that group. So I guess you could say I supervise our agency nerdlings. I've been with the state for, I just turned 29 years, so a long, long time.
Okay, and I think that is everyone from our side.
Okay. Well, my name is Andrea Cooley, and I am an assistant deputy director over communications and outreach. And I guess I'm called the product owner on the business side for QMS. And I've been here, next month will be 24 years. So not bad. So I'll pass it to Brian.
My name is Brian Schrader. I am the developer of the piece of software you're about to see. I have worked on and off with child support for many years, and currently I am contracted to the county via my company, Skyrocket Software. So we've done a bunch of different stuff for the county over the 10 years that I've been off and on, and this is one of the cool ones we get to do the most demos about. So I'm very excited to talk to you guys about this one.
And I was gonna, when we do this demo with other California counties, we'll talk some jargon that of course they know, related to the system we use. And we talk a little bit about our history on how we, we're doing walk-ins prior to rolling out our QMS. But I wasn't going to really do much of that with you all because I think the demo is really what you want to see. And then I thought we'd open it up for questions all along the way. And I can talk a little bit more on the business side and some of the other counties that are using it after Brian goes through his demo. Does that sound like a good informal way to kind of run through this?
Yep.
I think that sounds great. Thank you.
Well, then I will mute myself and kind of let Brian take over the show from here.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and do it. So what I'm going to be doing for you guys is giving you a little bit of a whirlwind tour demo. I'm not sure how much of the software you've seen or in screenshots or anything like that before, but I'll be kind of going through a number of different pieces of functionality. I'm not really going to be able to cover everything. Obviously, there's a fair bit to cover, and I will be going a little quickly. So feel free. I'll stop at several portions before I transition between, and feel free to jump in and ask questions before I go too much further. Happy as always at the end to answer any further questions or do any sort of if we need to go and revisit some things and click through some things. But I will go ahead and share my screen here. see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Sweet. So just to let you guys know, some quick guidance for browsing visually around this as I'm clicking around. Anything with this kind of blue or this kind of purple child support check-in stuff at the top, that is going to be staff facing. So anything that we would see here. If you see something with California branding on it, that is public facing, as the site presents to the public as an official California website, rather than a specific county's website, even though it's more county specific. But for clarification of the public, we branded it as California. So just as I'm switching tabs, that's the key marker to go by. So some quick overview. QMS Mobile is a lobby management system, similar to kind of stuff that you may have seen off the shelf, like Lobby Central or Qmatic or things like that. But it's a little more tailored to the specific use case we have at child support. It's also integrated with our source systems here. So it can do things like customer lookup when customers check in. The system supports both walk-ins and appointments, and we'll cover both of those things. Both staff entered data, so like the staff can enter someone if a reception desk and someone comes up to the desk and they want to come and see their caseworker or something, the reception can type that in. Or if somebody comes into the office and the customer wants to schedule an appointment for the future, the staff can do that. As well, it also supports customer self-check-in, so the customer can check in on a mobile phone or on a tablet in the office if they want to, and schedule appointments remotely from home. And the system follows up with them to confirm that detail and everything else. And as I said, we'll go through that flow. The system also has integration with a lot of different reporting systems, including some in-house reporting that is kind of done very basically within the app, as well as integration with our Tableau environment. So the state of California uses Tableau as its kind of main BI tool. And we integrate with that via a nightly data import. And then I can show you some of the reports that have kind of gone into that. So we have kind of up-to-date business reporting. As well, the final piece of this, and I think one of the pieces that I think makes the system as powerful as it is a lot of tenant-specific or county-specific customizations and administrative capabilities. So there's an entire admin panel that is available to certain administrative users who can go ahead and configure the system for their department or their county specific use case. So that can be setting up additional locations, configuring those locations, configuring business hours, different dispositions and reasons for the visit, and things like that. Currently, the system is also localized in, for any customer-facing functionality, it's localized in English and Spanish, although we do have the ability to add other languages as needed. And I'll go ahead and show you that. But that's a quick introduction and kind of a broad overview of the 4 parts of this I'm going to be covering. It's going to be the walk-ins, the appointments, the reports, and then the administrative functionality. So let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see here, this is a live dashboard of what the staff can see. Now, I am currently in our Kearney Mesa training room. I'll be doing all of this stuff in the training room. And we always set up 2 environments for every county. We set up a training environment and a real production environment. There's really no functional difference between these. It's mostly just labeling, but it allows you to kind of have an isolated environment. You can go and play and test out new functionality, train users and configure, and then you move to production where all the data reporting is and everything else like that. So that kind of testing data doesn't pollute the reports. One important thing to remember is that anything the customer can do, the staff can do. So if the customer can check into an appointment, the staff can check them into an appointment. This is the dashboard that the staff would use. It does support single sign-on if you have like Microsoft single sign-on or a bunch of other single sign-ons if we had to set up some other system. It also has an in-house user management if we needed to set that up. But let's say I'm a customer and I come into the office and I want to meet with my caseworker. So in the office, you would have a poster, a sign, a TV, something that has a screen that directs the customer to go to the website hello.dcss.ca.gov. and that's a public website. They could also scan a QR code that could be on the sign as well. I believe, Andrea, most of our customers scan the QR code rather than entering the website, but either will work. And when they go there, they'll be directed to a page that looks very much like this, and they'll be able to start their check-in. As I said, this entire website is localized in both English and Spanish. I'm just going to go ahead and do the English one because that's what I can read. At this point, they'll be asked to enter a 4-digit location code. Now, if they scan the QR code, rather than entering the URL, they will not have to do this step. The QR code is specific to each location. But this is to enable us to know which location they're checking into, as it's a global public website. And that 4-digit code would be on the sign. I happen to know that it's also up here on the staff dashboard, so I'm just going to copy that and put it in there. But this would be on the sign that says, hello, go to hello.dcss.ca.gov and enter this location code. And there's a code for each office. You can think of a location as an office. So you might have, one office downtown, one office, in a nearby suburb or something like that. And they would have different codes so that you know which location they're coming into. And then we just have a couple of brief questions here. I'm going to go ahead and enter that I do have a case, and I'm looking to get some court hearing questions. I'm going to use some data here. From a testing case that we have. And I'm going to put in my phone number. So that'll be important in a minute. And this is pretty much all the information we require. Then you can see that the check-in process is now completed. At this point, if we go back to the staff dashboard, you will see that this person has appeared. If I go ahead and click on them, you'll see the information that's available here. If this system were, if this person were in our source system, CSC, then they would have shown up here. Since they are not, it shows the data that the customer entered along with this kind of manual verification. So normally the system uses the testing data or the data that was entered by the customer to look them up in the source system. And it tries a bunch of different heuristics that we have found to be more or less accurate to try and identify a person. Obviously, there isn't a way to guarantee because everyone, there are multiple people who can have the same first name, last name, and birthday, first name, last name, social security number, or last 4 of social security number, things like that. So if we look someone up by these various criteria and we find one and only one match, we consider that a successful identification. If it comes back with 0 or with more than 1, the system does not distinguish which record it might be. It just says we couldn't verify this person, like it did in this case. However, given a participant number for this person from the source system, so if the reception was able to go and say, wait, let me go look this person up and see if I can identify them. Oh, that's right, there's 5 people with the same information. I happen to know it's this one. I can put that number in and then click save here. And this will go ahead and verify this person. And now they'll be looked up and you can see it was able to pull their case information. So this is kind of showing you the ins and outs. Now, as I said, if this person had been identified in the source system, the reception wouldn't have to have done what I just did. It would have automatically populated. But that kind of gives you both flows of how the system works. And you can see here that it does show the links to the source system, as well as some basic case information from the source system. This is customized to obviously California's use case, but there's no need for it to be so hard-coded. The staff at any point can edit this record if they want to. They can edit the data that is taking place here. One thing to note is that the language here is the language the person used to check in. So if they had selected Spanish as the language they wanted to check in with, Spanish would be the reason that's stated there. And if they had scheduled an appointment, an email address is required to schedule an appointment at the moment, so that email address would show up there, even though it wasn't asked on the check-in. So at this point, this person is sitting in the lobby and waiting for someone to take their case. So if I'm a caseworker, I'll go ahead and assign myself to a window, or what we call in the system a queue. It can be a counter, a window, an office, or whatever that location is. But that's the generic term we use. And now you'll see that since I'm assigned to window 10, there's this new button. Now, you'll see a lot of buttons here on the screen that aren't necessarily available to every user. I am an administrator of the system, and so I have a little bit extra functionality. But a staff member now would be able to assign this person to themselves. And so I'll go ahead and take this case. And now I would meet with the person to answer whatever questions they came in to answer. Down here, you can see a bit of a history of what's going on. You can see that they checked in at 10:13. They were looked up in CSE, and that verification was completed as a manual match, which means that the reception had to do that. Otherwise, if they were not able to be identified, it would say match not found. And if they were automatically identified, it would denote that as well. At this point, they've been assigned a few minutes later to Brian Schrader at window 10. You can see that this case record is open. And you'll also see, as I show you here, one of the reasons I had to enter my phone number is because the customer received a text that tells them that please come to, in this case, window 10. So if you have a large office or a sprawling complex where the customer may be around a corner or out of eyeshot or something like that, and you need to call them over, you can send them text messages. That's all configurable, whether or not you do that. If you have a really small office and like a single room, maybe you don't need text messages. But if you have a bigger office, we do support that. At this point, you would meet with them and complete whatever you needed to do. And then once the customer was done, I can select whatever the disposition was in this case. I'll go ahead and select that we had another disposition here. And then now if I wanted to see someone else at window 10, I could stay assigned to window 10. If this customer had more than one thing they wanted to come in for, let's say they wanted to meet with their caseworker and also drop off some documents or also go get help from somebody else, I would put them back in the lobby to meet with someone else. But if I have answered their questions and their record is closed out, then I can go ahead and hit save and close. And at this point, their walk-in process is complete. And the customer is free to go. If at any point I need to be able to go back to assignments that I as a caseworker have seen today, I can go to my assignments and they all show up here. A caseworker can edit any record that they created or that they were assigned to. So I can go ahead and edit this. If I need to, if I wanted to add a description here, or if I wanted to adjust things. You can also go down and enter the disposition here if they wanted to add case notes or anything else that, that I forgot to add. Importantly, the system with California child support doesn't update the source system CSC. Obviously, the system could be configured to do so, but currently we don't have that functionality implemented, mostly on the source system level. So we pull data from the source system, but don't write it back. However, as I said, that's a limitation more of our current situation here, but the system could be configured to report back and log this visit in the source system if needed. That pretty much covers what I would say is the walk-ins part of the application. Any questions before I move on to appointments? Bart? You're muted, Bart.
I have a very, very long list of questions, but I'll wait to the end.
Okay. Anybody else? Marty?
I did have one question. You mentioned reception. Is this geared to go to the actual assigned caseworkers, or is it designed to go to a receptionist type person?
Currently, we use depending on the situation, both or neither. So it's very flexible. It doesn't really have a prescriptive way to use it. If you would like to not, have some sort of reception, you don't strictly need to. I have the ability here as a staff member on the system to act as a receptionist, and you do have the ability to assign cases to other people. For example, like if I know I'm going to be the head at reception and I'm going to say, hey, this person's going to take this one and this person's going to take this one and this person's going to take this one. I can do that. But the system as we use it mostly is like the caseworkers are having this dashboard open and monitoring it, and then they pull the cases they know that they need. And the system does send alerts similar to how Outlook does when you have it open and you get like those little boxes at the bottom. This does the same thing, and you can configure it to, and the system is configured to notify people who have the dashboard open who are in the same location that, like, you know, hey, somebody has checked in or an appointment has been scheduled or something like that.
I will just try. We probably should have said this towards the beginning, but I just want to give a little bit of context why we're looking at this. Like, we closed our lobbies with COVID, and even since then, we still haven't reopened them, and we're trying to find a way to do it without fully opening our front desk, but still have a check-in system so that we can have that. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background to why we've been looking at this and why we were very interested when we heard about this at WCSEC.
Yeah, no, that's really good context to know. I know we've demoed to a lot of different counties, and everybody has, you know, different use cases or anything. Like, some people really want an in-person reception, some people really don't. So far I've kind of been a little bit general about it, but I can definitely focus a little bit more on some of those like hybrid features and definitely virtual features as well, if that's something you guys are interested in. Any other questions before I move on to the appointments? Marty, you stop? Okay, cool. So now we'll go on to the appointments section. So as I said, the system does have the ability to schedule, for customers to schedule appointments. This is a little bit more involved of a process than simply doing walk-ins, because it's a more asynchronous process, and it also involves some confirmation with the staff. So we'll go through the bit of the workflow that happens there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and check into the training environment. One thing with the training environment is it doesn't say what the name of it is. So in the actual system, it would say, when the customer goes to the link on the website, it would say San Diego County DCSS appointment. In the training environment, it says this. So just as a notice. So you would have a link on your website that would link to, hey, if you'd like to schedule an appointment with us, you know, click on this link, and it would go here. Once again, this site is localized in English and Spanish, and the customer can select a reason. In this case, they're only allowed to select from we call them tenants. This is like the training tenant versus the production tenant, from the tenants that they want. In this case, I'm going to choose the Kearney Mesa training room. We also have the ability to support virtual appointments, which we could talk about the process for that in a little bit. If you've entered a location for this training room, like where it physically is, then the customer is presented with a link to Google Maps to help them find it. At this point, you can go ahead and click next and select a date. I'll go ahead and select today. You can disable the ability for same-day appointments, but by default, we allow the user to configure same-day appointments. At this point, they would select a time slot that they want. This is mostly informational. We don't enforce a number of slots per hour or something like that. It's mostly, if you schedule an appointment, you're mostly just telling us when you're going to show up. And then similar to the case walk-in or the customer walk-in, you select a reason why you're coming in. And then some information about yourself. I'll go ahead and enter some information here, which does not match, although I will enter a phone number this time as well as my email. And the email is required, as I mentioned, for this process because there's a little bit more back and forth. So unlike a walk-in, the customer in this point is presented with a confirmation that says you're all set. They have a calendar, the ability to add this to their calendar if they want in various different ways, and they're told the information about when and where they need to go. If this were a virtual appointment, this would also include some information about the virtualness of this appointment. And it wouldn't include a location, like, you know, go to this office. It would have a URL or other information with it. However, at this point, unlike a walk-in where the customer is, you know, physically in the office and they can go see someone at the moment, appointments, just because the system allowed a customer to schedule an appointment, and we'll get more into how that specifically works later, but just because the customer has opted to schedule an appointment does not necessarily mean that appointment has been what I would call confirmed. It has mostly been requested, and a customer has requested an appointment, and staff will need to confirm. And the reason for that is just mostly to account for unforeseen circumstances and things like that. Like if a customer wants to schedule something on a day that you happen to have a fire drill or something like that, and you need to, you know, close the office for 2 hours, the exact 2 hours that, of course, this person wanted to come in. So in this case, on the staff dashboard, these customer scheduled appointments come into this section up here called awaiting approval. And you can see who the person is, you know, when they want to come in, what they want to come in for, and the language they want to come in for. And you can confirm or reject. If you do choose to reject it, you can include some information in the email that will be then sent to a customer, and then notify them about it. We are working on functionality to allow you to like notify the customer that you'd like to reschedule the appointment. Currently, they would have to schedule a different appointment, so you could just notify them of that. But I'll go ahead and confirm this one. And because it's an appointment for today, it now shows up on the appointment list. But if it were an appointment for tomorrow, it would not. And I'll show you how to browse future appointments in a second. The customer, once they choose to schedule or request the appointment, they get a notification that says, hey, via email, we have seen your request. The staff are looking at it, but it has not yet been confirmed. And it does not include a lot of the critical information. It just mostly is informational. Once the staff confirms the appointment, they get the full load of all of the information that they need to come to the appointment. As well as if it's an in-person appointment, they'll get a check-in link that they can use on the day of their appointment to actually check in at the office, which will shortcut the process we're about to go through where the customer actually comes in and they can check in. If the appointment is for more than a day in advance, like they say they schedule it for next week, the day before the appointment, they will get a reminder notification with the same information that they received in the confirmation to let them know, like, hey, here's the check-in link again. If you need to bring anything, here's the information you need to bring, and I'll show you how to configure all of that. So at this point, the customer is ready to go. They have an appointment. When they come in, as I said, they have an email with a confirmation with a check-in link. That check-in link, let's see, that check-in link allows them to, as I said, shortcut the process. So they would not, at this point, they would not need to go through the regular check-in flow where it's when they come into the office and they scan the QR code, they type in the code. They would not need to do any of that. They would simply click the link in their email. And when they click the link in the email, it takes them to a page that simply says, hi, please enter the location code for the location that you scheduled the appointment for. And the reason for that is to make sure that if they scheduled an appointment for one office and showed up to a different office, we can alert them that they are in the wrong place. Then if they select, if they put in the location code that's correct and they hit check in, then they'll be automatically checked into that location. However, if you have reception and you wanted to come up and they wanted to come up to the front desk and say, hey, I'm here for my appointment, then the staff can always do the exact same process and simply click check in. That does exactly the same thing. Now they are a check-in and they go through the same process as everything else. In this case, they were not found because I didn't enter valid information. And it goes through the same process. You can think of an appointment as basically a pre-scheduled walk-in. So once the customer actually appears, they're just a walk-in. At this point, you can go through and do all of the other things that you would normally do with this person. I can go ahead and assign them. I can meet with them and do whatever needs to happen. And then I can select a disposition and close this record out. As a quick other part for the appointments, really quick, I can also show you the browse feature, which allows you to look at the appointments and walk-ins for days in the future, the past, and today. So this is kind of how you would migrate around the system to see if you want to know how many appointments do we have scheduled for tomorrow, or what's the caseload next week, or something like that. Or how many did we see yesterday? You can do that here. It automatically filters to today, so you can see how many check-ins have completed and how many of those were appointments. If I wanted to go back, I can see a couple weeks in advance and see. Obviously, the training environment has not had much use in recent days. And this will group them if it's live information. If they're like looking at today, it'll show the current status of everything. In the lobby here, you've only seen one check-in at a time, but as more people are using the lobby, everyone is seeing the same information along the side. And so you can see what other cases are being handled. If cases are not being assigned to someone in a timely manner, the check-in rows either go green or red. depending on how long that person has been waiting, to kind of give the staff who are looking at this some indication that the person's been waiting a while. And the final piece of information that I wanted to mention was when a person schedules an appointment here at home, if they choose not to enter a phone number, which is not required to schedule the appointment in the first place, when they check into their appointment, if they do not have a phone number that was included in the appointment scheduling, they'll be asked, hey, we do kind of need that to send you notifications. At that point, they don't strictly have to. Still, they can still choose not to send to enter their phone number, but they are presented with one more question to be like, hey, we do need that to send you text messages. And if there is no text message or no message able to be sent to the customer, then in the check-in down here, you would see where this says notified. That means that we sent them the text message. It would say not notified and be read instead. So you would be able to see like, hey, this person wasn't able to be notified. In most cases, that's because there isn't actually a phone number here. They didn't enter one when they checked in. In that case, then they couldn't be notified. And you might have to send someone to like go find them or something if the office is big. So that's kind of the appointment side. I know that the real brief whirlwind tour, we will get to configuring the appointment stuff in the admin panel section, but is there anything on that, any questions on the appointment scheduling really quick? Andrew?
I just had a question. So like this is dealing with a lot of the in-person meeting, which is great. I also just wanted to ask, because I believe that you guys mentioned virtual appointments, and if you're able to do that. I don't know if you were just going to talk about that later, but I just wanted to talk about that really quickly, or at least ask about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can show you a little bit really quickly how that would kind of work, but we can go into that a lot more when we talk about the admin panel stuff, because it's the same flow in a slightly different format. So I'll just go over that really quickly.
That sounds great.
So if so we have a virtual office, and the way that we do this is in San Diego is that the system, you can configure a location to either be in person or virtual. And if you select that it's virtual, then you need to provide a link that the customer can use to join the video call. We don't support, the system does not have like in-app video conferencing functionality. So if you have a Teams waiting room or a Zoom waiting room or something like that with a link, you would need to include that in the configuration of the location, which I'll show you. And then at that point,
which platforms do you guys use?
We use Zoom.
Zoom, okay.
And I know some of the other counties are using Teams. I don't know how that how they have it set up exactly, Andrea, but I do know that a lot of them are trying to do that, right?
Right.
So in this case, instead of providing them with the address information, they're being provided with, they're saying, hey, this is a virtual appointment. And then when they go to get the emails after they finish checking in, they will see in those emails that instead of having an address that says, please come to this location, it has the Zoom waiting room link in it. So it's a pretty small deviation from how in-person stuff happens, because they're still scheduling an appointment at a specific time. But instead of receiving a location code and an address, they receive a URL. It's basically the main difference there. And then the walk-ins are handled the same way, where if they come into the virtual lobby, they're just doing that. But I believe for virtual lobbies there isn't actually like a check-in process, right, Andrea? Like they just come into the lobby and.
Right. We have both the virtual appointment system and what we also call instant virtuals. So on our website, we have a link to schedule the appointment for virtual purposes, or to just come on in, and then they just go right into the Zoom lobby. And then when Brian was showing, our staff have the ability to add customers. They just are adding them manually then when they're talking to them in that Zoom lobby to add their information to get them into the staff dashboard. And then we put them into breakout rooms through the queues that we were talking about, the actual meetup areas with a case manager. We use the breakout room feature of Zoom.
And Bart, you have a question?
I may have missed this, but as far as text messaging goes, does this application handle the text messaging or is that done a different way?
So the system automatically sends those text messages when those events occur. And we use a text messaging provider that we have that San Diego has contracts with, but it could be configured to use something like Twilio or any other text messaging provider, but it's all automatic. There's no manual sending of text messages.
Okay, thank you.
So from here, I'll go ahead and go into some of the reporting functionality. And this is, since I know your guys' business reporting may be very different, I just kind of want to give you like what we do in San Diego, California that is used with the system. So the very simplest, if you have access to this module, which not the stuff you're about to see from here on out, normal users may or may not have access to, depending on how the system is configured. If you have access to it, you can go to this reports module, which is a very, very simple way of doing reports. But it's basically you pick a date range and a set of locations you want to include information for, and then you select the fields you want and click export, and it gives you an Excel sheet. And then you can do some basic reporting in Excel. This is, I know, what a lot of the managers might use day to day to just kind of get quick glances at like, hey, this week, how many check-ins have we had? And things like that. It's very basic, but it does allow you to quickly pull information into Excel and kind of mangle it how you want and get little insights for yourself. And this is basically all the fields that you can include, whether or not the person was matched in CSE, when they checked in and out, different times, the reason they came in, the staff member they were assigned to, what location name, what queue, and things like that. The much more advanced reporting comes from our integration with Tableau. And the system could be used to integrate with multiple different BI systems. Tableau is the one that the state of California uses. And so I can show you some of that here. So this is our kind of executive overview of QMS Mobile. And as I said, this data comes in nightly into QMS Mobile, or into Tableau from QMS Mobile. So you can see the system here that needs to reload has a little bit of a map that tells you which counties are currently using it. I really like this map because I want to see this get full. And maybe a block over here would be pretty cool. In a different state would be pretty cool. But here we have the total number of check-ins. This is a little bit of an overview of how many of these cases are auto-identified when customers check in, how many cases, how many people are automatically identified by the system. And you can see this has remained pretty stable at pretty much like 20% are not able to be identified, either because they entered incomplete information, or in most cases, they're trying to set up an appointment for the first time, or they're not the person on the case directly, they're checking in on behalf of someone or something like that. So it's not always able to be identified, but it is the vast majority of cases. This is the appointment scheduling. So you can see we have not that many appointments being scheduled in general. Most of it's walk-ins. And then whether or not it's English and Spanish. So we have a good quarter of our check-ins are in Spanish. We have some reporting here around how long different appointments take based on whether or not they're happening in different FIPS codes or different training environments. And we have lots of other reports. I can show you some of the other ones that we kind of have. These are fairly basic reports, but the important thing is that the system, all the data is here if you want to run whatever reports you want to run. So this is the dispositions for each month and each year for each county, and you can filter and graph this however you like. So I'll go ahead and just say, not that one. 06037 and 73 are very familiar or very similar. This is for San Diego. In the month of January 2024, how many stipulations of each kind we had at each different office. And so you can kind of get a glimpse here. If I edit this in Tableau, you can see all the different fields that we have available. So when the assignments were, each assignment was created and ended. So an assignment is when a staff member says they want to take the case. And since a person can have multiple assignments, we really kind of look at it from the assignment lens. Like if a person has multiple assignments, they'll show up twice in this list. when they checked in or when it was created, the disposition, first name, whether they had an appointment, all these other different fields that they have that we can kind of run reports on. And of course, you can just get a raw data export of this if you wanted. And that kind of covers a lot of the reporting for the system. It's a lot, very configurable per county, but that's kind of the overview reports that we have. Any questions on the reporting before I go into my favorite part? No? All right. Let's do it. So if you are an administrator of the system, you get to use this admin panel, and this is where the real kind of magic happens. Now, one of the things that's important to note about the admin panel here is that there are 2 levels of permission that are required to get here. There's the generic, what I would call system administrator, the person, who's able to administer the almost all of the system, the functionality of different locations, the queues, and scheduling of appointments and things like that. And then there is the ability to manage other users. You can kind of think of like the user administrative side, to be able to grant users admin rights and things like that. Or be able to grant users access to the system or take away their access to the system and this or that. And those are kind of 2 separate lenses to view this. We'll cover the first one first because it's the more exciting one. So you can see here that I have different tenants. There's 2 here, that the tenant for the production environment and the training one. As I said, you would have both. If I go to the Kearney Mesa one, which is the production office that we use, you can see how I can manipulate this. So it has a name and a description. This name is the name shown to staff, and it's also a fallback name. But in case, a lot of times I know that offices might have internal abbreviations and then external names. Like, for example, one of the offices that, not for child support or not for customer check-ins, but for other things in child support, we have an office we call HOJ, but is known to the public as Hall of Justice. So if you wanted to put Hall of Justice in the public-facing name and HOJ in the internal name, any customer communications will always prefer the public-facing name. And if there isn't a public-facing name, it will use the internal name. But in case you want to be able to do that. So you can say Kearney Mesa office. If you have a public link, like either a link to that location that has some information on your website, or in the case of virtual appointments, you want to provide that Zoom link or that Teams link, you would put that here. And if you wanted to show up in the email, you put the link here. And then if you wanted to show up in the email as, instead of the URL text, it would say like, virtual lobby, and then have a link. You would put virtual lobby here and then the actual URL there. And then if it's a virtual appointment, you just simply check this box to say whether it's in-person or virtual. If it is not virtual, you can put the street address here, and this is what's used for Google Maps to provide the customer information to where the actual office is. It also, this address is included in the emails. And then if you want any customers to bring something with them, like you want to have a thing that says, member, please bring your ID, and you want to put that in the email correspondence with customers for appointments, that can go here. And then which tenant, you can configure which tenant this location is in, whether it's training or your other one. If you are no longer using a location, like for example, you've moved offices, you can always archive a location. You can't delete it because we need it for reporting purposes to be able to show you past data, but you can always archive it. And if you decide to move back into the office or you accidentally archive something, you can always unarchive it. In every case, the system strives to, any action you can do, you can undo. So there's not a lot of thresholds to which you cannot pass, or that you can only pass one way. That covers the super basic information, but the real exciting stuff is in this tab. So like I mentioned, each location has a 4-digit code. And that's just mostly to identify which location the customer might be checking into. However, the 4-digit code is, simple 4 digits, and you can go to a public-facing website, and if you enter in these 4 digits, you can check into that location. And if for whatever reason a picture of that poster gets on the internet and somebody decides to be mean about it, they can start checking in, to your location when they are not actually there. And this is mostly an anti-spam measure. But if, for example, if something does happen where that is the case, you can always regenerate this location code. Now, granted, that will change the QR codes. So if you have any printed signage that has the QR code on it, that will invalidate that QR code, and it will invalidate all of the people using that 4-digit code at that exact moment that you try to do it. It won't invalidate anyone who's already checked in or any appointments that have already been scheduled. But if you do need to take this drastic measure, it is there. No one has ever needed to use this, but it is just in case you do need to use it if it happens. This is also the page here where you can see some URLs that you can use on your website. So if you want to include the appointment scheduling URL on your website, you can use this URL. If you want to have the customer check-in URL here. We also support a kiosk mode, which is very similar to the customer self-check-in, but it has a lot less of the various menus and things, and it also saves the location that the kiosk is currently in. So the customers, if they use the kiosk or an iPad or a tablet or something else like that, they don't have to enter the 4-digit code, because the idea is that that kiosk is in the physical location that they are in. And so when you set up kiosk mode on that device, you enter the 4-digit code once, and then for the rest of that session, you won't need to enter that. So the customers can loop through and use that kiosk mode without having to enter the code. Here's also where you set up business hours. So this is for this location, what hours are they open? And this is 7:30 to 5. In this case, this is the appointment duration. So you can set it to either 30 minutes or to 1 hour. And that just mostly affects those informational time slots that you saw on the appointment check-in. It has no effect on the walk-ins, but on the check-ins and the list of times they would see. You can also set business days. So like when the office is actually open. If someone tries to schedule an appointment or tries to check in for times or days that you are not open, they will not be able to. I would suggest that you, if you do get a chance to set up the system, and we do go that far down this road, one of the things I will say is in your testing and your training environment, make sure you set these up, because you won't be able to check in and you will get an error that says your check-in is not allowed at this time. This happens to me a lot when I do testing on Saturday. So make sure that error is not, it's totally preventable by setting up the location properly. And then we have some advanced options down here. You can always at any point turn off check-ins or walk-ins. If this is a walk-in only environment, or this is a appointment only environment, you can configure that here. If you would like the location to not do lookup in the source system, in our case CSE, you can turn that off. You can say, please do not look this person up, just allow them to check in with whatever information that they entered. And then this is allowing whether you want to allow same-day appointments or not. The final section up here is mostly kind of an onboarding bit for the system. This is where you'll find we have some pre-made signage if you don't want to custom make your own signage, which we do encourage. But if you don't want to or don't have the time, there's some printable signage you can get here, and some digital signage if you want to put it on a TV. You can get that here. If you want to make your own signage, we provide the same text that we use on our signage in both English and Spanish that you can just copy paste right into your sign. And this is the QR code that a customer can scan that you would want to put on that sign as well. One important thing to remember is the location codes and the QR codes are location specific. So each office needs its own QR code sign. Otherwise, they'll be checking into the wrong place. And that's pretty much it for the locations. But now if you want to set up the queues or windows or anything within a location, the administrators can do that as well. So you can create and modify your own queues. You can also archive and unarchive them, just as you would expect. If it's a virtual queue, you can set that up here. And that's more informational. And then if you want it to send those text messages, the please come to window 1 text messages, you can say send assignment alerts here. If you do not want to send those text messages, you simply turn this off and it will not do so. The queues are pretty simple. For appointment scheduling, there's a little bit more information because appointment scheduling and actually for the check-ins as well, there are days where they might be a Monday through Friday, but you are not open. It might be a holiday or something like that. And so we have the ability to schedule blackout dates for scheduling appointments. And these are pretty straightforward. You simply give it a name and say whether it's happening just once or annually, what date does it occur, and then what offices does it apply to. And this will prevent appointments from happening on that day, which is appointments and check-ins actually on this day. It's pretty straightforward. And you can schedule them in advance. You can schedule them just once. If you have like a closure or something coming up, you can always do that. For the dispositions or the resolution to whatever meeting that you have with the customer, you can create and modify these as well. Excuse me. You can archive and unarchive them just as you'd expect. The only thing that's different about these is they have a name and they have this description. And this description is shown to staff when they select it in the dropdown. And so this can be used for training purposes. It can either explain, hey, this bank levy is what this means. So if the staff are new, we're trying to figure that out. Or you can also use it for if you have a couple dispositions that you are retiring, you can always add descriptions here that says, hey, you probably shouldn't use this one. We're all migrating over to use this one instead. And so make it available for legacy reasons, but point them a different direction. And this text will show up underneath that for staff. The last feature in the regular administration that we have is the reasons for visit. So this is when the customer checks in or makes an appointment when they say, this is why I want to come in. This is the reasons they can select. These are a little bit more involved in the dispositions. They also have an internal facing name and a description, which is shown to staff if they were checking them in themselves, like if they came to reception and they wanted to check in. The difference is that these have, because they are shown to customers, they have to be localized in the languages the system supports. And so when you create them, here's where you can add the localization. So we have them both for English and Spanish here. And when you create a new reason for visit, you need to enter both localizations for English and Spanish. And this allows you to have an English name that's different than maybe the name that you use internally, or maybe something of that sort. It's just important to add these. And if you don't have all of the localizations right now, it requires both English and Spanish. But if you don't have all of them, it shows you a warning that says, hey, you're missing some of the required localizations for the system. And the tactic that we take is if a localization, if an option is not localized for the person's language, let's say you did not enter a Spanish translation, it will not be shown at all if the customer is using the Spanish check-in. So it doesn't show the English translation, it doesn't show a blank, it doesn't show, localization not found, it just doesn't show it. And so that's another thing to check for, to make sure that you're showing all of the options to all of the users or all of the customers. That, before I go on to the last little bit here, that is the administrator panel. The last thing is user management. The system does allow for users with special access to administer other users. So I'll just go ahead. I mean, you're going to see a lot of checkboxes on this screen because I'm a member of every county. So you can see that I see a lot of boxes here. You would probably only see one of these boxes here rather than a bunch of them. But this allows you to simply look up a user and then select what access they should have. Every user by default will need tenant access, which tells them that they have access to view the system at all and look at the dashboard. If they have access to the training environment, that would be this checkbox here. If they can look at reports and be administrators, that's these other checkboxes here. And the changes are instantaneous. The user just needs to refresh the page and everything will work just fine. The only thing a user administrator cannot do is give user administrative rights to another user. That has to be done at a different level. Currently, that is always done in this instance of the software by someone in San Diego on our end. For you guys, that would not be the case. If you guys were using the system, you'd have a separate instance with a separate everything. But there would be some specific subset of even the administrators who could do that. And that's just a safeguard against users accidentally locking themselves out or locking each other out of user administrative access. But anyone with user administrative access can configure everyone else's access to the system. And that's pretty much it on this end. I know it went a little fast and went a little long, but is there any questions on the use on this stuff before we go into just the global? Actually, let's just any questions so far on anything we've covered? Carrie?
Yeah, I was just wondering, are all of your staff users of this tool, or do you limit it in any way?
They are all users, except our supervisors and managers, of course, have that reports feature as well. But yes, all of our case managers, reception staff are all users.
Okay, and when somebody schedules an appointment, can they schedule it with a specific person, or does it just go to
Yeah, the
somebody-
majority of time, the customers are self-serving, so they're setting their appointment themselves. But we can definitely in the past, sometimes we've done some campaigns for like case resolution, new cases, new SNCs, where an establishment team will also set an appointment for those customers to either meet with us virtually or in person. So we have used appointment for those purposes as well. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
And Bart?
So are you, Brian, one that manages this application? Is this all you do every day? Is be the administrator and manage this application?
I'm not the administrator of the application. We have some staff in child support that administer the application. I'm the developer of the application.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, I know we only have a few seconds at this point left. Happy to answer any questions. I'm also happy to stay on and talk to anyone who had any questions at all. Andrea, did you have anything you want to say real quick before we move on to that?
Yeah, I was just going to share maybe a little bit of stats. I know Andrew and Carrie were at the Wixit conference, but we rolled this out basically it's actually 2 years now this month, because we did a soft rollout to an office that was smaller in nature regarding walk-in volume, because that was a lot easier to do just to get the system out there and training to staff. And, then we rolled it out to the other offices as we gained momentum. And then, of course, we added our virtual feature, which is what I talked about quite a bit at the conference. We also use it for outreach purposes, and that has been very helpful, because it's real simple to have a QR code right there, when you're out in the public, and customers can just simply do that QR code, go to our table where we're located, and our staff can meet up with them. So that has worked out really well for us as too. On average, we see about here in San Diego, about 1,800 customers are walk-ins per month. So pretty busy here. And but the virtual side of it has been very effective for us. And I know we've rolled out to so far Los Angeles, which here in California handles about 40% of the caseload. They have done a soft rollout so far. They're using it in conjunction with their appointment system for callbacks, correlated with their call center. So that's like enhanced callback feature. So they're looking at rolling out to some of their walk-in offices in the beginning part of the year. And then we also have San Francisco, who is now ending their 3rd month. So they're using it at one of their offices. And we have a couple of smaller counties, Sonoma County and Kern County, that are going to be rolling it out. But like Brian had said, it's a mixture here in California. We have some offices that are still 100% virtual versus like our county that went, 2nd month after COVID, we reopened and that is a lot based on where we're located. We're a border town, so a lot of our customer base prefers to do things in person. So that's why substantial number of walk-ins.
Andrea, you got muted somehow. Andrea, you got muted.
There, sorry about that. But we're open for any other questions you might have, whether it's, I'll send out this recording when we're done and, take another look at it. Any other questions you have, we are both totally open to any questions you have or share success stories or things. Like I said, a little bit of our history. We can talk about that more as well.
Bart, you still have a question?
Yeah, two quick ones. I tried to find out information about QMS, and all I see is application phone apps, basically. Is there any way I could find any technical information about this? That would be very helpful.
Yeah, so I can provide. The system doesn't have like a public marketing page. It's not a system that's for public sign up. This was built for San Diego County and is used by other DCSS departments throughout the state of California. So there isn't any public marketing material, but I'm happy to provide. I know we have a bit of a user guide and some other things like that, and I'm happy to answer any technical questions on implementation or anything else like that. I can write up an email and respond to you with that. But we don't have any sort of public marketing material at the moment.
Okay, well, that's the reason why then. Last question, does it run off a Linux server, Windows server, or a SaaS service?
So currently the implementation at DCSS runs on Windows servers with SQL Server. From a technical standpoint, from like the application development standpoint, there is actually no reason why that has to be true. They could easily run on Linux. I believe there is some slight configuration change that would need to happen for it to use something like Linux and Postgres or something like that, but it wouldn't be very complicated to do and is mostly just configuration. As for a SaaS offering, there isn't currently a SaaS offering, and I know that it's been something of interest in San Diego, but it hasn't moved forward in that direction at this point.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? And as Andrea said, we're happy to answer any questions. If you have them via email, I'm happy to shoot you guys an email and answer any questions. Andrew?
Yeah, I just had more of a question about, like, I guess, did you guys contract with, I guess, San Diego County or California? Did you guys contract with, I guess, the company that Brian works for? Or or I don't know if you're a state employee under another umbrella, or how you guys were able to develop this, or how you guys went about procuring this.
I can answer a little bit of that. So San Diego County DCSS has a little bit of a history of building in-house applications. We have a suite of like in-house tools that have been built over the years. And I was a member of those teams back 10 years ago. I left the county, came back a number of times to do some sort of in-house consulting and contracting to kind of help out with various things. And in the course of that, in 2021, the County of San Diego contracted with my company to build this piece of software. So along with do a bunch of other internal things like maintaining other in-house systems and upgrading some other pieces of software throughout the enterprise. But this specific piece was contracted by San Diego County.
And so then are the other counties in California just, I guess, like sort of being added on sort of an addendum to that same contract, or are they doing separate contracts with you guys?
So currently the instance that San Diego uses is the way DCSS prefers to do it in California is that California State DCSS hosts all of the software, all of the web-based software. And so there's a single instance, and right now San Diego is kind of sponsoring this application, and the other counties are effectively just getting it for free.
Okay. And so I guess then that just brings me about how if we were to choose to go forward with something like this, how Utah would be able to either, I guess, procure it, or like if there's some way that of piggybacking or something. Because that's when we saw this at WCSEC, I wasn't quite sure how it would go from sort of a California-based contract and how much and you guys were willing to share and what those costs might be.
So I can't answer that question
I
directly.
figure you might not
can
have
refer
some
you
of those questions. Yeah.
to either Andrea or our director. But what I can say is that I know that the county has been interested in kind of taking what has been built as a platform here and making it available to other county departments within the city of San Diego, which would mean having several instances of this piece of software across the enterprise. As the DCSS one, it's customized for DCSS, it's hosted at state DCSS, it's not spreadable directly. So there are things in the works to make the software and the code in the platform more available to others who would like to sign on to more of a SaaS offering. Although the specifics of that I don't know at the current moment. That's very much in the works. But I would encourage you, if you're interested, to let Andrea know and to get in contact with our director, because I know that's something that is currently being worked toward, although I don't have any sort of schedule or deadline for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just another question I had was just about how long the onboarding took for some of these other counties. Since I think you mentioned there are 4 other counties other than San Diego, and how long it took them, I guess, to develop everything and get implemented in their offices.
I'll answer the first little bit, and then I will turn that over to Andrea for the business side. I will say usually the longest period is getting firewall access to be able to load the website at all. That is by far the longest step. The rest of it, I will let Andrea speak to.
Yes. Yeah, because once they have firewall access, I'll give you the case of San Francisco. So Brian was able to help set up, their training room environment for them just to get started. And then once they had their admin access, they put in the dispositions they wanted and all of those features through that admin panel. And they were in a training environment for really only about 2 to 3 weeks. And they did a rollout. They decided their date and they went for it. And, it's a quick turnaround once you have your staff exposed to the training environment and they're playing around a little bit and you get your signage ready. So it was very quick for them. And these other counties, they were just dealing with the firewall. So we're getting them set up right now. And I anticipate they'll be going up probably by mid-January.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Yeah, I figured it
welcome.
would probably, I mean, there are just some things that you can figure, but I was figuring since it's already sort of set up that the implementation would be fairly simple from there.
Yes.
So true about firewalls, 100%.
It is definitely the number one hurdle. Any other questions or anything like that? Hearing none? All right. As I said, you're more than welcome to email me and Andrea for any questions that you may have, and we can shoot over some technical documentation if you need.
That would be great.
And other than that, thank you for the interesting QMS Mobile.
Yes.
It's been really awesome to. I was ecstatic when we heard that not only another county was interested, but a state outside of California was interested. That was truly a great moment for the system and for everyone who worked on it.
You did a good job.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you all. And I'll wait to hear back, but I will go ahead and send out the recording just so you all have it and can take another look if you need to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
good
you.
to meet you all.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Nice to meet you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yes, nice to meet
Thanks,
you.
you as well.
Bye-bye.